Boom, boom, ba da 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 dum dum da 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 dum dum da 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 dum 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 da 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 dum dum da 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 dum dum. Yeah, that'd be your opening. Boom, 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 boom.
You're looking good.
Is it good?
It's a good. I mean, it's a little.
Are you ready?
No.
Why are you overthinking it, dog? Let's just have just relax.
Just have a good time.
Just relax. Stop overthinking exactly what you're about to ask me. Think there's what? Hey,
The best ones are just kind of off the cut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. You're good.
right. But I'm gonna keep on typing. What questions do you have? Why are you writing all that stuff down?
I'm just formulating thoughts.
That's fine. Formulate it with us.
Okay.
Don't overthink it. This is gonna be good for him too, by the way.
Get out of my head, Zach.
Be good for him. You know what I mean? He's got cameras on him. It's gonna make him nervous. It's gonna work through this. It's gonna build confidence.
It's character building.
Look at my shades, Tommy. You got to be that cool. Okay.
I do. I think shades off might be the best.
No, they are. I'm just should know if he's ready or not.
I am ready.
But yeah, fire away, my man. I know you have some questions that you want to go through and see if we can't help out a few other people as well out there watching.
Absolutely. So I wanted to go over the power of the question.
Yeah.
So I think it's extremely important, especially in the industry that we work in, and it definitely can take your game to the next level. So in your mind, in your eyes, what is the power of the question?
It's a big question, brother. The power of the question is really understanding more about people, you know what I mean? And so when you think about power of the question as a surface level, just a sense, right? It's understanding that every single person that you deal with, every single person that comes in and you get to have the opportunity to potentially sell a new car to, right? Or just be able to work with, there's been influences, right? There's been things that happened in the past that influences their decisions today. And so when we ask questions, a lot of people think we just ask questions and so we can get information to show them the right vehicle, which is true, right? That is true. But there's so much more to that. And so when you say the power of the question, it's meaning you're understanding that there is a lot more behind what their answer is. And so the more you can learn about that person, the better question you can ask, because you can understand, you can see it. You can see how the reactions and responses are to the other questions, right? And so the power of the question is learning more about that person, understanding there's more behind those people's decisions. And so you know what question to ask to continue moving the whole conversation forward and progressing that. And so the power of the question is understanding it's more than just asking a question. Right. There's a strategy to it.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot.
What would you consider a good question to be?
I think the question of getting them to open up, right? And so I can give you a specific question in essence, right? But you know, it's like from the beginning of the conversations, right? So I know how the car business perception is, because this is the thing, right? Let's just say, to give you an example, we had a customer comes in. You can already tell they're kind of put offish. They're just giving you that kind of like that scowl in a way. It's like try to make light of it. So the question is like, say, I know the car business has got a perception about it. Trust me, I'm in it. I know. And how's your experiences been since you've been buying a car? Because that's one thing I'm trying to change. Like, what's been something that's happened in the past? Tell me how the last situation go for you. Mm-hmm. And so in a way, if you're you know what I'm saying, the power of the question in a way, based off of that person's body demeanor, based off that person's, you know, facial expressions, how they're acting, that tells me most likely, right, they're looking for something or prepared for something based off of what happened in the past. Right. And so for us to acknowledge that, for one, right, we acknowledged it before they had to bring it up themselves and say, tell me, I've heard some terrible things that's happened to customers. Like, what's the last thing that's happened to you, you know, when you went and buy a vehicle? Right. Because I've heard a lot of interesting ones. I'm trying to change that. And so does that make sense to your question?
A good question opens someone up. Like, the more you can relate with them, that's what defines a good question as far as the power of the question.
I think it's more about understanding their story, right? And it's kind of that's a big statement as well, but every single human being, right, bases decisions off of experience. Right. the amount of experience they have or the lack of experience that they don't have. And so the power of the question is most definitely opens them up. It allows you to understand what influences them because you care that much about finding that out. And if you care about finding that out that much, then that's how now you can add the power of it, right? The power of the questions, because it is powerful. It's powerful because you now understand at a completely different level of how you can help them out at another level. And indirectly, you benefit from that because they want you to benefit from that. So the power of the question is really uncovering their story and understanding what are the influences behind the answers, the decisions, the things that they're saying, the things that they're doing, because that's how you can overcome them.
I like that, because it kind of leads into my next question too. My next question is, how does somebody take that step to making the switch to understanding the power of the question?
Care for people, plain and simple. For you to understand something, right, you've got to care about it. Because it's kind of like the saying, like, you can't make anybody do anything, right? You cannot make anybody do anything. They've got to want to do it. They've got to understand what the benefit's going to be of them doing that, right? And then that's when they'll get behind it. And so for somebody to start to even begin to understand, you've actually got to put the person, that human being, first. Understanding them first. And once you get to see, and you get to see these patterns, you get to start to see the things that the customers are responding, that these people are responding to you with, you're going to see that there's some consistency in some of them. And so the more you start to do that, right, the more you're able now to know what questions to ask, because you've now seen it 10 different times and you know now, or have your higher probability of understanding of what they're going to say. Okay. And so if you have a good idea of what they're going to say based off the question you ask, because of you understanding that person, now that's kind of like you've heard the saying of make it their idea, right? Make it their idea. You don't always have to have an answer. Allow somebody else to come up with that, right?
I think like making your idea, make it their idea. I think I have a little bit of pushback because it feels, or it sounds manipulative, right? It sounds like you're not actually listening to them, but you're just like trying to plant an inception seed in their brain.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Dustin. It's like that's why when you first ask about how do you first start to understand what questions to ask, you've got to put the person first. And so I see it in the other way around. It's like you can assume, right? You can assume and just go and make the decisions and take in places, do something, and fast forward that before you take the time. And so what I'm saying, even if you feel like you have a good idea of what their answers are going to be, you're taking that time, you're being patient, you're investing into that to not assume it, right? You're not assuming it, even though you feel pretty confident of what they're saying, what they're feeling, and knowing what they're going to love this. They're going to love this, or they're going to like this, or they're going to really appreciate this for me. It's almost like I'm not going to assume. And so that's the way that I see this is stop assuming. Ask the questions based off of what you think they're going to say, and make that's your confirmation, right? Allowing them to come up with that, allowing them to say that. And so that's the part of, it's like you're listening to them. And most people don't listen to people. They do assume, they don't ask, and they move forward. And that's part of the problem, is you got to hear people. You got to listen to people. But in order for most people to slow down, they actually got to care about that person. They actually have to care enough to want to know that.
Right. Care enough to know how they can help that person.
Does that make sense? Or
That makes sense. So if I'm hearing you right, it's kind of like, it's not that you're trying, it's not like there's an objective of I'm trying to plant an idea in their brain. It's everyone already makes assumptions all the time. And instead of making that assumption and going for that immediately, you're taking the time, you're being patient, and making sure you have the right context before having that idea about someone or confirming that.
Because make it the idea is more pertaining to the coworkers, the leadership, the management. So when I say people in general, I look at the people the same way. As a customer is a person, my coworker is a person, I'm a leader, so the people that I lead is a person. So it's people in general. So make it their ideas more pertaining to the people you work with. Allow them to come up with those ideas. When it comes to the customer, I guess a good example would be, for somebody that's saying that they're a mom, right? She's saying that she's a mom, she's got 4 kids, and You can tell as she's saying it that like there's some stress behind it. It's not the fact that she doesn't love being a mom.
Right.
It's just the fact that being a mom is freaking stressful, right? And so it's hard. And so when the questions that I ask, it's like, man, is that hard? It's hard in essence, but what it's doing is it's acknowledging that she busts her ass. She busts her ass, and that makes her feel better. It makes her open up more to want to tell you more about the situation, which is going to allow you more information to know how to help and not to put them down the wrong path, right? But it can't be about selling the car first. It's got to be understanding about them first, and the car second. And a lot of people may look at that like it's crazy, but I promise you it's not.
How would you coach an experienced person that has just been in a business for so long that they understand the power of the question, but they're not executing it because they're not, as a leader, you can see that they're not caring about the customer. They're kind of just going through the motions, instead of it truly grabbing the attention of that person or truly trying to help them. They're kind of just going through the motions.
Well, I can tell you if they're seasoned and they know about the power of the question, but they're not asking the power of the question.
Well, I'm saying they might be asking it, but they're just going through the motions.
What I'm saying though is, you said like if it's for a seasoned person, they know what the power of the question is, but they're just not doing the power of the question, right? They don't know the power of the question. Okay. They don't know it because when you fully grasp and understand truly how powerful the power of the questions, right? And the meaning behind that, you don't go anywhere else. You don't do anything else because there's nothing else that benefits you directly as well. That like there's nothing compares to it. Because so many people approach situations that I'm gonna win, right? I'm gonna get over on them. I'm gonna sell this and I'm gonna make my check, my money. What I'm saying is when you approach situations that both sides can win, that's where you understand fully the power of the question. And so to say that seasoned people, that's one of the people, unfortunately, because the thing is they went through so much change, right? They've done things for so long. It's like, it's real. They're experiencing it. They're going through it, and it's not easy. But the thing that I always challenge people on is like, do you truly want to get better? Right? Do you truly want to get better? Do you truly want to continue benefiting? Right? That's just what it is. It's like better is more benefit, right? I'm going to accomplish more. I'm going to be able to achieve more. I'm going to be able to do more. I'm be able to retire sooner. Like just these are the things that like directly benefit me. Whatever it is that drives me, whatever it is that I'm passionate about, right? Getting better means you care about those things. Those things actually matter. But when you look at it, the hindsight, and it's like an everyday thing. These guys, I've done it. I've been in the business. Like we've seen the business change time and time again, and they don't want to change anymore because it is comfortable. They have a great living already. They've got a client base. It's just like at some point they're like I don't need more money. Right. That sounds crazy, right? But it's like there's more important things, even for the seasoned people, and they don't even realize it. There's more important things than money. You know what I mean? Because it's a cultural thing. We're all getting exposed to this so much more. It's like, I'm 20, got 20 years experience in the business. Man, you got 1 year, 20 times, right? You don't have 20 years experience. You got 1 year, 20 times in a row. It's Groundhog Day! The greatest leaders, the greatest achievers are the best students. Right. They're the number one students. They're trying to learn. They learn every single day. And so for our seasoned people, but I would tell them right now, it's like, change, it's real. You've done it, you've succeeded, you've accomplished, you've done great things. But today's world that we're in is completely different from 5-10 years ago. And so doing the same things we do and over and over and over is not going to get you to that next level. It's not going to make you it's not going to get you to that level that you feel like you're at. Is because your times are changing, but you're not changing with them.
Right. Absolutely. So the power of the question creates leaders when they get that skill set down. When did you see the shift, and what kind of affirmations did you see when you saw that shift?
Yeah, I can tell you playing out.
Ooh, that's a hot question. That's a hot cue.
I know exactly where it's at. And so no, it was for me, because I got into the industry young, right? Historically, for the people that like had been in the industry for a long time, that's what they did. They realized at a young age, like, wow, this is a career that you can make a lot of money in. You can be really successful. And for me, you know, as a kid that had a kid, 2 months after I graduated high school, you know what I mean? I had some motivation behind me, right? I had life. I had life behind me pushing me. But no, it's like, I got to a point though, I had some success and I started getting some traction, and it continued, you know, year after year after year. And so that was confidence, right? My confidence continued building, and it's just like, I got so confident that I had all the answers. I knew all the answers. And so that's what I tried to do. I would always try to make sure that I had the answer. And Chad Kirchhoff was the one that got me to understand this and see this, because I was always, again, not being patient, not allowing other people to come up with answers. He's like, Zach, listen, you are one talented individual, and 9 times out of 10, most likely you're going to have the answers, but you don't always have to be the guy in the room with the answer. And so from that allowed me, that's when it really clicked for me. And I understood that the effect you have on people, right? Because so many leaders have, it's hard to understand for them that you cannot do it by yourself. Right. You cannot do it by yourself. And being around Chad and just being exposed to the care that he had for people, like genuine care for people, it opened up my eyes so much that you accomplish so much more through your people. And you've got to allow people to fail in order to know how to succeed. And so that's when it clicked for me.
Gotcha. I like that. I like that a lot.
What do you want to know? What are some things that like you have struggled with? What are some things that like you feel like you've not known why it's happened in certain situations? You just didn't have an answer, and you had to try to figure out and formulate an answer yourself. Like, shit, did I what do you want to know with some of the things that you have had to go through?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the biggest thing that, like...
You hold the phone, you hold like this, straight on?
Straight on.
Like that.
There we go.
Because if you're not doing that, it's like this. It sounds like this. So this right here sounds like a podcast. This sounds like a no-cast because nobody's listening. That was a joke, sorry.
I would say the biggest thing that I've struggled with in working in a dealership setting is just understanding the why behind the things that are, some of the things that are done when they're done.
Like what? Give me a specific example about your most recent dealership experience.
Oh, man, I guess like one of the most frustrating situations that I had to deal with right before I left my last dealership that I worked with was my sales manager closing a deal for a salesperson. And when I had basically already had the unit sold, and he came back over to me and told me that I went and asked him if he had collected a deposit on it yet, because they were both up on the board, and he said that yes, he did have a deposit on it. Meanwhile, I watched, right after we had that conversation, I watched him walk into the other sales pro's office, call the customer, and get the deposit over the phone when I had already had a deposit on that unit. And like the most frustrating thing to me was he didn't have an answer as to why.
Yeah. So how'd you approach the situation?
Not the best.
Okay, so explain.
Just because, I mean, I was so like frustrated and heated in the moment that I just walked up to him and I was like, what the hell, man? Like, that's some bullshit. That shouldn't have happened. Like, that's so unethical. And all he could say was like, but yeah, I'm sorry. And sorry that happened to you, but I don't really have an explanation as to why.
I just did. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I couldn't accept that answer. Like, that was so frustrating to me. And I couldn't accept that answer.
Yeah. So tell me this to help shed light on that, right? What were you frustrated about? The root cause?
Truly the root problem was he lied to my face.
So this is okay. So it wasn't about the fact that you lost out on money necessarily.
No, not at all. I could give a shit
a little bit, maybe. I mean, we all like money, and so it's not.
We like money, but I guess it was also the fact that I had to go back to that customer and like tell him about the situation too.
Oh, and so there you go. So there's more. Yeah, so perfect. So lie to you. One, now you've got to be the bad guy as well to the customer. So there's two things, right? What else?
I don't know. I just lost my trust in a manager that I did have a lot of trust in before, and losing that trust, I mean, basically just made me lose faith in the whole organization.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing, right? Because that's a pretty shitty situation, right? It's not a good feeling. And so, first I want to start in the point of, what did you want to accomplish by going to talk to him? What were you hoping to accomplish?
Just understand the reasoning behind it, understand the logic, understand what was going through his head when he did that. I was just seeking to understand.
And so you were hoping there was a logical reasoning behind
Correct.
what
Yes.
happened and why it happened.
Right.
And so for you, it's like you didn't think there was a logical reason, most likely, right? That's why you're frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, in the moment, I couldn't see why there was. I mean,
So what were you hoping trying to accomplish legitimately? Because that wasn't what you were trying to accomplish.
just express my frustration.
You
that
wanted
I'm-
to know how you felt.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was not something that made you happy.
No.
Right. And so that's how you approach the situation,
Right.
because your goal was wrong.
Right.
You wanted to let him know that you were pissed.
Yeah.
But genuinely though, and that's the thing, and you had every right to feel that way, right? You had every right to feel that way. We're human beings, and the thing is, somebody's going to do. I mean, I would be pissed, and I've done the exact same thing that you have done. And the way that I had to learn is through failure, right? Is through making mistakes. But I had great people around me to help show me and help me understand exactly how do I get what I want out of this. It's because it's like, I'm going to approach a situation professionally, as much as hard as it is. It's like so many people try to handle a situation in that moment, right? They try to handle it in that moment. They want an answer right now. And that's what we have to hold ourselves on. Is we've got to slow down for a minute.
Right.
We got to take a step back. We got to go outside. We got to walk around the building. We got to take a breather, because when we are emotional, which we're all human beings, we're all emotional, and we're approaching a situation with another human being, it's kind of like the saying I say, you cannot fight fire with fire. So you come in with a fury, guess what? It's going to be a fury as well, right back at you. You're going to get back exactly what you're putting out. And so that's the first thing. We've got to understand that when we're working with other people, we've got to understand that there is reactions from them. And if we want their reaction to be positively effective towards us, then we cannot approach that and I'm not saying that you were a hypocrite, right? But in a way, that's what you did. If you think about it in that way, right? I'm going to expect this result out of him, but I'm going to come in like this. I'm going to do this, but you are not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. And so it's, you did what most people would do, because that was the wrong situation in the first place.
Right.
The fact that most likely, that manager was led in the exact same way. The manager, most likely, we do what we see in a lot of cases. It's exactly why our children are like the way they are, right? They do what they see, and they say what they hear. And so it's just, unfortunately for that manager, most likely he was shown the wrong way, and he had experienced the same thing, and unfortunately he's duplicating that. And so for this case for you though, to pretend I tell people, grow your stock, right? Grow your stock, start improving your value, become a true asset for your company. And how you do that is handling situations outside of what you really want, how you want to handle them.
Right.
Because we want our pride. We don't want to put our pride aside. That's one of the biggest problems in our industry today, is managers are seeing all this change with how these younger generations communicate, right? And they want their information now. You want your answer now, right? And that's exactly why you approach that situation like that. And so for him and most, right, it's like, I'm going to base this decision off of my personal opinion, my personal feelings. I don't give a shit about your feelings. If you don't like it, that's fine. Go down the road. I'll hire somebody else. That's the world we live in this industry right now. But when you approach a situation to pull him aside, and you're calm and collect, and you ask him to come into the office real fast, and you explain, one, what are you trying to accomplish? And, hey, manager, I just want to pull you aside. I was hot. just be honest with you, I was hot. But I wanted to make sure that I approached the situation because I genuinely don't want to just fight with you. I don't want to argue with you. I want to move forward. I want to progress. I want to learn, but I also have to understand. And so when I was working through that deal, when I had this customer and I saw you do this, like, I want you to switch places with me and look at this in my eyes. I've done all this work. I have a customer. I've got to go out and tell that customer now that my manager just took another deposit over the phone that the customer's not here. I know you are. I know. Apologize. But like, I had to go through all that. I had to face that. You didn't have to face that. And so help me understand. And so I know, because I may not have the information that I need in order to understand why you did what you did. So could you please share that with me and help me understand why you did that? Because so many times we approach situations where we expect that other person to understand how we feel, to already know how we feel, what we're thinking, what we see, right? We assume it. We have to over-communicate. And when you over-communicate and that other person can now see themselves in your seat, they can now feel and picture themselves having to go and experience and feel what you feel, they're going to be a lot more willing to understand. And that's the problem. We have to seek to understand before we seek to be understood.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you preach it a lot, and you definitely lead by example in that sense. Yeah, I mean, just, I don't know, reliving that situation like makes my face red already.
So,
but
I mean, I do have a question with that, because I think it's easy to understand that, like, okay, you can't fight fire with fire. And when you're emotional about a situation, like, you can be aware that, okay, being frustrated about this right now and coming into this conflict with that frustration is probably not going to be the most productive thing. But the reality is, you're still a human being. You still feel that fire. You still get red in the face. You're experiencing that, and that has to go somewhere. That has to be transformed some kind of way. What do you do with that? How do you take the time or humble yourself, or what does that process look like for you?
So for me, it's how I do that is I surround myself with like-minded people. You know, for me, I can put myself back into that. You know, I'd walk out of the building, I'd walk around it, I'd call somebody with like my wife, or I'd call my mom. Honestly, I'm a mama's boy. I'm okay with saying that. You know, I'm a mama's boy. She's a freaking rock star.
She is.
But no, I talk through, and when you surround yourself by people that don't have the emotion invested into it, but hear the situation and genuinely will challenge you, because they know if they challenge you, if they try to get you to see the whole picture of things, right, then you will get better, then you will benefit. And so to your point though, it's like, you got to surround yourself to like-minded people. When I say that, like, you're frustrated, pissed off, it's not to go and talk to another salesperson and vent, right?
Right. That's the worst possible thing that you could do in that situation.
But that's what we do, because again, we are human beings. Mm-hmm. It's the natural instinct of things that we do, because we have to express ourselves. We have to get it off our chest. We have to share that in order to know how to process that. It's just, where do you share that at? And you've got to make sure that the people that you're sharing it with genuinely want to make sure they're helping you.
Right. It's constructive. It's not.
They're not
degrading.
feeding it in. You know what I mean? They're not.
Right.
They're not adding fuel to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, more fire is not good. Right.
Yep.
And so you got to make sure that the people are around you that are helping you get better, learn more, understand more. And then when you find out in the situation that you are not in the wrong, being honest, when you go in there and approach the manager, you still are pissed off. You're still upset.
Right.
But you are not on tilt. You are not. You are not reacting. We need to really try to be less reactive and more proactive. And by doing that, sometimes it is stepping back. It is going to my circle. It is going to my people. That, am I thinking right? Am I seeing correctly?
Absolutely. Dustin, to kind of feed into your question, just because, like, man, as as a kid, I had some serious anger management issues. Like growing up, I really, really had to work on how and when to confront people. In a heated moment, in a heated situation, I would do like the absolute worst possible thing, which is obviously react versus, be productive or proact. But what I did is I just kept a stress ball on my desk. Literally anytime I got pissed, I would just grab that thing.
Did you have that stress ball when you talked to your manager?
No, I didn't.
There you go. Number one mistake.
Exactly.
Sounds like a great system, Tommy.
But anything that somebody can find to transfer that energy or how they're feeling into something else productively it's going to improve your life tenfold.
I think I want to kind of like go a little further than what you just said, because I think you just made a really good point of putting that energy, putting that somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to business and people, right? When you're dealing with that, it's by getting it out, by going to working out, by going to screaming or something like that, you're getting it out, but that stress ball doesn't help you process.
Right.
And so many times we need help processing.
Mm-hmm.
We need help learning. And so that's important, putting the energy. And that's where I'm saying is put the energy as well into your circle that they have your best interest. They're not going to condone you being pissed off.
Right.
Like they're going to listen to you. Like, yeah, you're right. But what the hell did you do?
Right.
Because that's the thing. That's the next step. That would be like, what did you do before all that? Because there's two sides to it, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's too many times though, within the situation, we're only talking about the manager side. You've got to be your biggest critic before you can ever hold anybody else accountable. I don't care how negative another manager may be. What did I do wrong first? How can I have gotten better? Could I have prevented this situation? Because too many times it's like, it's him, it's her, it's their fault. It's what did you do?
Fingers, right.
What could you have done differently in order to prevent them from even doing that?
Mm-hmm.
We forget that.
A lot of times in those situations, like that's the hardest thing to think about, turning the finger back around and saying, well, what did I do wrong?
And so that becomes easier when you know that that other person is not pointing a finger back at you.
Right.
Right. And so when it's like, okay, there's no fingers, like, let's come together. What's going on? It's open hands instead of a point of fingers. Right.
Right.
What's going on? Let's talk. Come on, come out here with me. And so the environment that you surround yourself in, but that's why you have to find the right environment and the people that genuinely want to make you better.